Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast show. We are getting closer and closer to that 100 episode mark, eh? It's been quite a long ride with the podcast show. Really enjoyed this particular segment because it's the one segment that we get to just chill, sit back, and talk. No particular topic. We try to stick to a theme, but generally speaking, it's just myself and whoever's on with me to catch up and have a chat with him. And Aditya's here with me today. And before we get going, obviously, you guys know you need to subscribe to this channel, of course, and click that notification bell for all future videos. Also, smash that like button, share this with all your friends and family. And yeah, let's get into today's episode. First and foremost, Aditya, how are you doing? Because it's been a while since I've had a conversation to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been traveling a bit, and yeah, I've been attending a few games, which has been fun. Yesterday's being the exception. That was a bit of a disaster, I suppose, with 60 at all out
What
for
happened
RCB.
there, Aditya? What happened? You were live there, right? At the game.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that was the best. That's at the Cricket Club of India, the Brabant Stadium. That's the best batting track of the four pitches there, and what's also happened is that to protect the pitches for that 2 month period, they've also had more grass. So that's why you've seen that a lot of these games have been difficult for opening batters, particularly those who are batting in the first innings, and that additional grass has helped seamers. So for a period of time, batting has been challenging for that first half an hour between 7:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. Batting has been challenging, but if you get through that, then it starts getting easier. Yesterday was, I think, it was Marco Janssen's genius. To see him get Faf, Virat, and Anuj Rawat out in the first over, in his first over, it was just brilliant to watch. And the other highlight for me was watching Umran Malik. He's been bowling above 145 consistently, and he was probably that one guy where all of us were just wondering, has the ball been bowled or not? Because this guy's just too quick. We can't see the ball. So it was a fun experience all in all, but I do think we would have liked to see more runs.
Yeah, of course. And what's the atmosphere like? Was it like to be like in the crowd and having that back again?
Yeah, it's great to have some sort of public back, right? I think we started off the tournament with 25% capacity, and I think it's moved to 50-70%, as the tournament has progressed. So it's been great to have that buzz going on. And it I think it also pumps players. You can see that in the energy and things like that. But yeah, overall it's been pretty electric.
Yeah, it has been. But do we speak about it? There's a little bit of a thing that I would like to speak to you about. I'm seeing that you've gotten to see him live and perform. What is going on with Virat? I mean, is
Yeah.
is there something to worry about when it comes to Virat? Because I know he's been in terrible form. I don't know when last he scored a century. In any format.
Yeah.
So like we complain about our players as well, South African players. Everybody goes on about Timba not scoring. I think it's
Yeah.
a lot more concerning for Virat not scoring than it is for someone like Timba. I feel based on where they bat.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a different case, different scenario completely. I want to talk about Virat specifically, and
Yeah.
and and I mean you also Janssen taking his wicket too.
Yeah. Look, I think with Virat, it's a couple of things, but you know the the pressure on him is just unbelievable. And at some stage, I think he's one of those players that desperately needs a break. You can see it. It for the sake of the IPL, for the sake of RCB, it's very good that he's not captain of RCB. you can see that he's a bit more relaxed out there. And in the you can when you see players walking around pre-match and doing the little drills and all of that, you can see that he's a bit more relaxed there. But there's no doubt that he's burnt out. You look at the stuff that he's doing on the field, playing all three formats, barely getting a break from cricket, and just less than a year ago he was captain of all three formats, and now he's not captain at all. So I think that does it takes a little bit of time to adapt, but more than that, I think he just needs that time and space to be able to make the changes that he needs to. That's about it. Am I concerned about Virat? Absolutely not. Because he's a champion. Like, he's probably the only player I've ever seen who after scoring two consecutive ducks is smiling at the crease, and he still walks off with that swagger. And then when he comes out the field, he still he comes out the field as if he scored 100. So I think from that point of view, I'm not concerned at all. But for his sake, I do hope that he gets a break, because I can't, like, him and Rohit Sharma. Like, I can't imagine how fried they must be mentally. And let's not forget that they're still playing in a bubble. They're still doing like COVID tests every day, and for Virat in particular, and Virat and Rohit Sharma in particular, I really feel for them, because the houses are literally 20 minutes away. So for them to be in that hotel bubble environment, and for them to be playing on grounds that are literally 15, 20 minutes away from their houses, it's painful.
Yeah.
I can sort of feel that.
I mean, I've been enjoying parts of the IPL this season, enjoying some of the games. I don't necessarily think that the standard of the bowling has been the same level as what I've seen in previous tournaments. Maybe that's only because I'm focusing on South Africans only, really, and maybe only focusing on on the non-international stars that are bowling in the IPL.
Actually,
Um,
this season has been better in
but
terms of bowling. Like, this is the most bowling friendly IPL that we've ever seen, actually.
yeah, okay, interesting one. Because I
Yeah,
mean, when maybe I'm looking at it from a South African perspective, then, because the
fair
South
enough.
African guys are not necessarily performing the way I would like. I mean, Marco Jansen is excellent, but we always knew that left arm seaming, that steep bounce is always going to trouble any opposition as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like there were a lot of I don't know, maybe I just remember because South African bowlers used to get a lot of awards for every single time they took wickets last year.
Yeah.
So it was there were a lot more in the books. KG struggling a bit too. Have you had an opportunity to see KG live
Yeah.
and bowling?
Yeah. Yeah. I put up on the channel as well.
Yeah.
I
Oh
do have
yes, of course.
footage.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I forgot.
unfortunately, that day he got absolutely hammered by
Hammered. Yeah.
David Warner. So, interesting combination there, David Warner versus KG,
Hmm.
given all the history. But I have to admit, I am surprised to see KG struggle, because like, this has been, even though you look at the purple cap contenders,
Yeah.
it's Yuzi and Kuldeep at the top of uh, the wicket ladder. But I do feel like this has been a great tournament for fast bowling. And I am surprised to see that the South African players, with the exception of Janssen yesterday, haven't really performed with the ball. That has been a bit of a shocker for me, because you look at the wickets at the Wankhede, for example. The Wankhede is one of typically it's one of the most high scoring grounds ever. This year, in comparison to the MCA ground in Pune, DY Patil in Navi Mumbai, and the Brabant Stadium, Wankhede has been the least productive ground for run scoring, and you can sort of understand why that is. But the pitch dynamics this season is um, is sort of uh, is sort of interesting. But I have to say that I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised to see KG struggling. I feel like these conditions are perfect for him. For bowlers who have that steep bounce and so on.
Yeah. I think he's struggling with rhythm in general. I mean, even for in internationals, I mean, I think he's similarly to Virat. I mean, I saw Lorenzo saying maybe Virat just he's burnt out and he needs a proper rest. Giving him a couple of months off, I don't maybe think maybe that's not enough. Like I mean, maybe he needs like they need a proper like I spoke about it on my previous show. I said maybe he needs to go like on a holiday to like I suggested Japan, for example, to go sit in the hot springs and relax. But he needs to go away for a while, man, and just chill a bit.
But I have to tell you something that's just it's similar to that, right? So when Virat got married, okay, no, like everyone knew that that was happening, but it was in Italy, and I think apart from five or ten close family and friends, and no one really knew what was happening. Like no one else was invited, And when they went on their honeymoon, they basically they went to Finland, and they were as close to the Arctic Circle as anyone could get. Okay, and they spent their honeymoon in this small little town, the Arctic Circle, and he went to a coffee shop this one day, and lo and behold, the one person who was standing behind him was an Indian, and he had gone there to escape from Indians. The one person he found there standing behind him in line was an Indian, and his last name was Kohli.
That's
So,
hilarious.
so Virat, so obviously he asked Virat for a picture, and he wanted to chat with him and all of that. So Virat said, "Listen, you can, click a picture and all of that, but please don't post it for the next week. Otherwise, people will come here, and we're trying to get away from crowds and all that."
Hmm.
So he didn't. That man was respectful, and he didn't do anything of the sort. But like that's the stuff that he has to deal with, which is crazy.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I mean, that was a nice introduction. I mean, me and Aditya obviously catching up. Let's move on to the topic quickly. There's a lot to cover, guys. Let's basically we can just speak about our weekend actually because I've seen a lot on Twitter. I mean, I posted I posted a T20 World Cup 11 on Twitter that is getting some quite a bit of a traction for me at least. I mean, I don't get thousands and thousands of likes and retweets, etc. But for my little small account, this is good enough traction for me personally to handle. But yeah, I gave my team, and a lot of people were talking about various things. Now, I think Deva Brevis, I don't want to be talking about him too much, and I don't want to be obviously putting too much pressure on the young lad. Um, but this is what we've warned and spoken about. This is why I'm not such a fan of just fast tracking people so quickly, you know, so easily, because I feel that there are certain things about players that players can only learn by playing domestic cricket or by playing the longer format of the game. Now, Deva got an IPL contract before he actually played a 4-day game for the Titans. He's got an IPL contract before he played a 1-day game for the Titans. He's even got an IPL contract before he's played a T20 game for the Titans. So it's one of those things that we need to look at because we don't want to also make mistakes in when doing certain things with certain players. Now, I've only realized this with the situation that was happening with Manchester United recently, when Ralph Ragnick, our manager, came out clean and spoke about the problems at Manchester United. Now, there's a lot of things he brought to my attention that was very heartbreaking, that taught me a lot about mentality of sportsmen and sports athletes. And even though they are professionals and they are athletes, they still go through issues and troubles and things that stop them from being able to do certain things. And you think that, oh no, but they're professional, they're athletes, they're doing it for a living, they should be able to do this, or they should be able to do X, or they are should be able to do something at a certain level. Like, you expect a footballer at the highest level to be able to make a pass for a 2 meter pass. That's like should be a basics. How did you even start playing football if you can't even make a basic pass? But there are other factors within the game, maybe pressure, maybe other things, maybe their mindset is not right, maybe they're feeling a certain way that makes them not perform. Now, they, we knew that, by what I knew at least, would happen if Devat goes to the IPL, is that at first there would be a initial shock, because these players, these all these players that are professionally playing for so many years would have said, you know, this is Deva Brevis, they're making a big thing about him. He's probably just a youngster that has a little bit of talent and would have maybe underestimated him a bit at the beginning. They would have seen footage of him playing against, obviously, in the 1919 World Cup, but there's no footage of him playing against men. There's no necessarily a lot of footage of him playing against men, even though he played in that for the under 19 team and he against the other domestic teams. It wasn't the same as being on TV in front of millions playing against men. We knew that there was going to be an initial shock, and he did. He wowed everybody and showed what his talent is. The most important part about it now is, now that he's gotten that experience, is how do we take that experience and use it for him for the better. That these are not just memories that you learn about. I've seen so many young United players come through the system at Manchester United. A massive club like United is probably one of the biggest commercial clubs in the world. The pressure that you feel when playing for Manchester United is like no other, because of the amount of fans that are around in the world. And everybody all around the world is watching. Millions and millions of people are watching you play every week. So I've seen youngsters that are extremely talented at a junior level. I mean, Manchester United's academies are probably one of the biggest academies in the world. I've seen them dominate youth level, and they were excellent. And then they come to the senior level, and they can't do basic things that they can do when they were at the youth level, like a basic touch, like they're too heavy, or they make a basic pass and it's a little bit wayward. They're maybe not passing as quick enough. Maybe there's too much pressure on them. So there's other factors. I feel that now Deva Brevis has gotten to the point where people would have done their homework on him, and they know that he's a free-flowing type of player that's going to play brave cricket. Now, there's one thing of being just like that and just being completely brave and coming out and just playing attacking game. You also do need to be able to be adaptable. That brand of cricket is not always going to come off every single time, and especially if you're a number three, you're going to be relied upon not your fans, by the teammates and your coaches, to sometimes maybe stick it in and bat long. Now, there's one thing batting long in the World Cup, under 19 World Cup, against bowlers that are under 19 level, and there's another one thing doing it against the Bumrahs of the world. And obviously he's not going to do it against Bumrah, but other bowlers of the world, like the Kumars and the Trent Bolts and all of those guys. It's a different thing doing it against them. So there are certain things in his game that he can maybe only learn by playing some 4-day cricket. And I would suggest that to him. I mean, that would be my suggestion to him, is to come back to South Africa. It was a great experience. I'm so happy, proud of him, and obviously of all of those things. But I think come back to South African and play some domestic cricket. I see people going, like actually having a go at me on Twitter saying, how can you not put Brevis in the team? I'm like, how can you give a boy a national debut at the World Cup like that? Just think about it. A 19-year-old boy, you want to give him a World Cup debut. I mean, that's not even a World Cup debut. This is his debut for international cricket on the World Cup. I think it's a bit premature. I think he needed to be in this SAA squad, for example, if he wasn't at the IPL now, of course. That would have been my suggestion first anyway. If he wasn't in the IPL, didn't get picked up, my suggestion would have been SAA squad. Put him in there. Let him play T20 cricket against Zimbabwe, against international bowlers. They're playing some decent players in that Zimbabwe team. We're going to get a proper test, I feel. It's really going to test us. And if we don't perform, then you can see, if they don't perform, then we know why we are struggling to find the next in line. And if they do perform and they outperform, then we're going to start worrying. Then we can start questioning the selectors and say, hey, but there are certain things over here that we are seeing consistently. They've managed to make the step up. They managed to have that little bit of pressure and show that. Tristan Stubbs, I feel, is ready. The boy has been playing against men since he started his career. I feel that he's maybe ready to get selected in a squad. I'm very happy to see that he's part of it, because I think this will be an opportunity for him to show that he can do it amongst men and against men. And yes, he's slightly older than Devat now, but even coming out of school, he was always playing. He played some domestic cricket first before getting onto the stage and showcasing his talent. So I think it's important for Devat's development to also learn how to play the longer format, because I think it will teach him a lot of lessons on how to be patient. Even when the ball looks like you need to smack it, sometimes it's not the right one to hit. Sometimes being patient I think learning to run between the wickets so that he can reduce the amount of dot balls he faces, because he does get boggled down a bit on one end. We've seen it. I saw that happen already in the Under 19 World Cup. Because he has the ability to play massive strokes and smack the ball out the ground and almost hit anybody out the ground, it does take off pressure a lot quicker for him. And because he's so confident, he's going to be like that. And they mustn't mess with his confidence. So I feel that what needs to happen is after this IPL, I think he's going to obviously. He's no way he's going to score runs every single game of the IPL. No one, I don't think anybody in the history has scored a 50 or good score every single game in the IPL in a tournament. So he will go through tips and he will up and downs, and he'll learn how to recover from that. But I do think that after this IPL, he needs to come back to domestic cricket, play some forward, have a full season of domestic cricket, and then I think we should start easing him into SAA squads and into um, the Proteas squad. If he's doing really, really well domestically, then I think a call up can be there for him to get an opportunity in a T20 game here and there or an ODI game here and there. I think they need to work with his talent and ease him in. Make sure you do with him that we never did with others. I don't want them to make the same mistakes like they've done with others. And like, for example, I'll lose a Man United, for example, as another example. We the one of the biggest clubs in the world, rich club, can buy anybody you want, but we bought the incorrect players, and that sounds crazy for multi-billion-dollar club or that's so big and so popular to make transfer errors when they're making transfer errors. I feel the same way in cricket when taking a player from domestic to international. Sometimes certain players don't have maybe the temperament to be able to make that step up immediately. Sometimes people are maybe a little bit behind, they're not fully developed yet. I mean, and there's still stuff to learn. So I feel that we need to all of us need to calm down a bit and give him a SAA tour, etc. Give him domestic cricket. I think don't put too much pressure on the lad. I think congratulate him because I think he's done well even already. I think he's done well enough already, just as what he's done so far in the tournament. um, for my opinion. But yeah, Aditya, your thoughts?
I was wondering if Dewold could be part of the South African team that's going to tour India for the White Ball series in June. That might be a good initiation into white ball cricket for him because
That is interesting.
he
Yeah, to be a part
plays.
of the squad, yes.
Yeah, I mean whether he plays or not, that will be determined by conditions and team combination and all that. I
Uh,
don't think we can predict that right now.
yeah.
But given the fact that he spent over 2 months here in India at the IPL, he's played a few games as well. He's well versed with the conditions and so on. And I feel like even if he's not in the playing 11, he could share a lot of input with players in that white ball team who probably haven't played as much in India. And uh, I think he could learn a lot in
And
that
also,
process.
and I also think he can learn also from the fact that he will watch how they operate when they come into foreign conditions, like how other domestic players who have played domestic cricket, how they adapt to Indian conditions if they haven't played there before. So
Yeah,
you'll be looking. It's like Devil's in a crazy space. Like if just think about it, like he's in a crazy space. He's 18, 19. He's going to turn 18, 19 the end of this month. So you got Devat, he's 18 years old and he's never played domestic, so he doesn't know our domestic stars that have a massive name. There's going to be certain stars that have a certain swag, certain name. They're going to carry themselves a certain way. They're the big guys in the domestic scene.
yeah,
He doesn't necessarily know them exactly by playing against them because he never really was exposed to them. But then again, he's famous. But not in South Africa. He's most famous around the world than he is in South Africa.
yeah.
Like that's the craziness about this. Just think about that. Dead. Like if Deva Brevis walks outside in India, he'll get swamped. If he walks around in South Africa, he won't. That's just imagine that. Like that's the craziness about the situation. So he's gonna need to find that balance because when he's in
Yeah,
India, he'll be
yeah.
treated like a king. But when he's in South Africa, he might not. So like it's a little bit different for it will be different for him. I feel
And look at the
to
players that he's been interacting with. Like I don't know if
yeah,
you watched this
exactly.
video.
Like
Like
my God, it's not even
a
funny.
couple of
Like
a
he's
couple
literally
of days ago.
living every young cricketer's dream.
couple of days
Literally.
ago, like when Mumbai played Chennai, the game is over. MS Dhoni produces a classic.
Yeah, it was
He
amazing. It
scores.
was incredible.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I watched it. It was
6-4, two
incredible.
four.
It was
Like,
incredible.
how do
Like
you do that?
I was chatting to my dad about it, Aditya, and I was telling him, like I think it was 16 of the last four balls, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And then I was telling him, like, before that over, it was like 17 of, I think, the last over. And I told my dad, like, look here, like, this is like, this is this perfect situation for MS Dhoni. Like, the caliber of what MS Dhoni is, what he stands for, everything. This is the perfect scenario for him. Like, I was sitting there, and my dad's like a CSK fan, basically. He actually is a
Yeah.
bit confused at the moment because we don't know who we want to support. Aiden's in the one team with Marco Janssen, and then we've got RCB with Faf. And he's a CSK fan because Faf was there last year, and so we were a bit confused about it. But anyway,
Yeah.
watching it, and I was just like, this is almost like it's scripted. Like it was like scripted for Dhoni, the perfect scenario. The fans all looking there in awe. He did. It was the perfect scenario for him. It was incredible to
And
witness, actually.
exactly. And right after that, and so that's become like a classic, right? Like I can't even begin to tell you what the reaction was like in India, like
I
the
will
day after
share.
that innings. It was ballistic. People were asking MS Dhoni to come out of retirement and play in the next World Cups for India.
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff was going around. And right after that, after that game, MS Dhoni goes to the dressing room, gets his pads off and all of that, and then here is Devold Brevis walking in there and having a chat to MS Dhoni, and they're discussing their games. Like that's a dream. How often do you get that? And I think that's the beauty of the IPL, right? Like just the other day, um there was a game between KKR and Punjab Kings, and Andre Russell was batting, Odean Smith was bowling, and I think Odean Smith, Odean Smith bowled a couple of poor deliveries. Andre Russell smacked it out of the park, and he won KKR the game. And literally, right after he hit the winning runs, Andre Russell puts his arm around Odean Smith's shoulder, and he tells him where exactly he should have bowled.
Wow.
Among all the adrenaline, I felt like that was such a heart touching moment, you know, such a heartwarming moment. Because there are so many times that you've seen that with Andre Russell and Odean Smith, you've seen that with MS Dhoni and things like that. And I feel like that's amazing.
Mhm. So yeah, like just to get back to it again, yeah. So with regards to Deva Brevis, like he played T20 games for the Titans, and we saw that he wasn't doing what he was doing under 19 level. You will learn those things. Bowling at the highest level against men it's a weird test to everybody. It will be a different test to everybody. It's a whole different ball game. But okay, let's move on. We wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk specifically about what we expect from the South Africa A tour. Now, to everybody out there that doesn't maybe know what the squad was, if you weren't on a previous tour, a test with us, I mean, tour with us, if you weren't on a previous show with us, I'm talking all over the place. Yeah. If you weren't on a previous show with us, um, you can go check what the squad is. I mean, I don't have it available right here, right now. Let me see if I can find it quickly for you. I'll have to change the theme quickly just to show you. But um, here we go. There's two squads, of course. We've got the South Africa a one-day squad, and as you can see, Henrik Klaassen will be captain. I didn't put that on here, but Ryan Bickleton, Lisa Hendricks, Tony De Zorzi, Tienus de Bruin, Kaya Zonda, Brennan Sobrain, Bjorn Fortuin, Andile Pechrekwayo, Jason Smith, Lucibe Ngwepe, Lutusu Pamela, Darren de Pablo, Lazard Williams, and Cheryl Kutsia. And then we've got the T20 squad, which is Henrik Klaassen, Ryan Rickleton, Lisa Hendricks, Kyle Zondo, Lutusu Pamela, Darren de Pablo, Lazard Williams, Cheryl Kutsia, Andile Pechrekwayo, Jason Smith, Lucibe Ngwepe, Tristan Stubbs, Vian Libbe, Prinelin Sobrain, and Bjorn Fortuin. Now, as you can see over here, we're obviously going to be looking at that and be like, um, interesting team. What I would like to see out of this is I would like to see the guys that I'm hoping would be on the T20 World Cup list. or radar at least. Who they're going to select for that squad is going to be important, and I want to see certain guys that put on their positions. Now, yes, I agree with John. I think Makanya should have gotten an opportunity. I think it was very unfair on him not to get selected in any of the squads, especially with the hundreds that he scored in the ODIs. So I think he scored 100 in the ODIs if I remember correctly, but he did really well in the ODIs in a 50 over format. But when it comes to the SAA squad, what I want to see is I want to see our youngsters get opportunities here. I would like to see the youngsters come to the front of the line and say, "Look, you guys, this is who I am." I hope they give them opportunities, but I know from a personal expectancy that they're going to not. They won't pick these contracted players if they're not going to play. So I think those contracted players will be picked first, and those senior players will the Proteas former Proteas players will be picked first, and then around them they'll build a team. I'd hope that they would give all the youngsters and the new guys an opportunity so we can see what South Africa's talent pool holds. Because a lot of us might not have witnessed these players play, and it would be good to see that they're performing. Because I hope that they will stream it, because Zimbabwe Cricket normally stream these things. They will normally stream this on YouTube for everybody to watch. So I'm hoping that happens so that we can have a look and see how these guys can perform. T20 and ODI format's important. We're preparing for 2 World Cups. Very important that we get our squads in order. I think we're looking for about 2 or 3 players here from this particular squad. I would say, I would like to find a bowler. I'd like to find an all-rounder, and I'd like to find a batter. Either a finisher or a batter that can bat anywhere. An adaptable batter that can bat anywhere. If we can find 4 or 5, great. If we can find 5 players out of this thing, great. But I think three or four, I'll be happy with minimum 3 players coming out of here that we can select and say, look here, they must be part of the squads. Just to add a little extra juice to those final squads for the ODIs and the T20s.
Just one thing that I'd like to add there, and I say this from the experience of the success of the India A program, is the degree of coordination, right? So, for example, if Hardik Pandya was to bat at number 5 or number 6 for India, and you'd want a backup all rounder, that backup all rounder would also be batting at number 5 or 6 for India A. Because oftentimes we talk about winning and confidence and exposure and all of these things, but ultimately, if you have a batter who's playing at 3 for South Africa A, but ends up batting at 5 or 6 for South Africa, that doesn't help anyone, because you're still going into unfamiliar territory. So I do feel like that coordination is important, and that must take precedence over winning, in my view.
Agree. I agree
They lose to
100%.
Zimbabwe, that's fine. To me, I don't think that would not make a difference to me. But I feel like if a player who's slated to play at 5 for South Africa plays at 5 for South Africa A as well and performs well, I'd gain more confidence out of that.
Yeah. So I just want to say a lot of people are questioning certain selections now. I think it's important that we read to you guys who the contracted players for South Africa is. We've got Temba Bavuma, Dean Elgar, Quentin de Kock, Riza Hendricks, Keshav Maharaj, Janeman Malan, Aiden Markram, David Miller, Lungin Gidi, Anrik Nokia, Keegan Peterson, Andile Peklekwaya, Dwayne Pretorius, Kagiso Rabada, Tuprei Shamsi, and Rassi van der Dussen. Those are our contracted players. So because they are contracted, it's very they have to play. Unfortunately, domestic cricket, they're going to have to most likely play international cricket. So it's interesting. And what I like, so what we're going to probably see is exactly that. We're going to see South Africa pick their contracted players first, and then around them they'll build. And it's going to be against a very, very good, very strong Zimbabwe team. I think there are quite a few test players in there, in that Zimbabwe team as well. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, you know, I just all I wish for is just a little bit of more clarity, um, and more transparency when it comes to selections for South Africa. Uh, we were told by Graham that the SAA team should be the second best team, so the second best group of players in the country, and yet we are still sitting here thinking like we're scratching our head and not understanding certain selections. Um, like for example, Vian Lubber being picked in the T20s, but not in the one days when the one day was his best format. It's weird that's the case. But maybe they're looking at him as a potential World Cup player, someone that could be part of the squad perhaps in the T20s. But it's still weird that he didn't get an opportunity now to play in the one days. Would it have been so crazy to put his name in both squads? Like, I don't know. He might as well, if he's going to be in the one squad, why not the other? Unless, like, it only makes sense if the guy is a specialist. If he's only a T20 specialist. Like, I don't expect Dieval Brevis to be in both the ODI and the T20 squad necessarily. I wouldn't be surprised if they only pick him in the T20 squad, for example, in the T20 squad. But then with Vian, you pick his worst format this season. That doesn't make sense. I mean, he scored 300s this season in one days. It's not a joke. So anyway, so it was a bit weird, but I would just like a little bit more explanation because they're leaving us as fans to run around and guess what the reasons are and may come to our own conclusions on why certain players weren't selected. And a lot of the times, especially when it comes to players of color, we know where that direction goes. So it's easily preventable if they can just come out and speak to the public and say, we've selected this squad for XYZ. This is the reasons why we picked XYZ and not ABC. Like for example. So like it just bothers me that we're not getting that transparency. And I think especially with teams like the SAA squad, especially with teams like that, where it's the next in line players, the guys that are on the fringes, we want to know more about them. We don't, not everybody gets to watch all of these guys play and gets to know these players. So it would be nice for them to give us that transparency and say, we've witnessed how they played domestically for quite some time and the runs that they put on the board. That's the reason why, how they perform in the last 5 overs or 10 overs. We've seen their average there. We are doing that research ourselves. Like it's crazy, us as a fan base are doing that research ourselves, where we need them to give us that information. Actually, I think I would like that transparency. I don't know if it's like that in other countries, though. I don't know what it's like when India players get selected, if there's that transparency that I'm asking for, because then I'm asking for something that is a utopian thought.
Look, I think selection is among the most difficult endeavors in cricket, and there's always some sort of like politics involved, I suppose. Because there's so many states, so many different players, and in India where you've got so many over 150,000 active cricketers, it's difficult. Selection is difficult, so I don't think it's always easy. But given the fact that in the domestic game there are players who are breaking the door down, so then it's quite obvious, and I think public outrage would just be through the roof if a player that didn't deserve to be in that level is picked. So I think that's certainly there, but yeah, it doesn't happen a lot that with that confused. Like for example, if Shreyas Iyer makes his test debut, it's never a surprise. His first class statistics are just unbelievable. He deserves to be there. So I think that's there. But in saying that, look, selection is complicated, but I don't think communication is. And to me, that's where CSA has been lacking. If they answer the questions that you basically stated right now, I think things would be a lot easier. So that's certainly something that Cricket South Africa would do well
Yeah.
to work on.
So what do I expect from this particular tour? Well, I would like to see our players get opportunities, the younger guys, the other guys. That's my answer. So to end off the stream, I think it was an excellent show, Aditya. Thanks a lot for joining me again. It was good to chat with you and catch up. Thanks to all the fans out there. Remember, guys, this is the podcast show. This is the show where we just sit down and have conversations about our lives, about cricket. It's not necessarily an interactive show where we get involved with the live chat. We'll grab a couple that maybe follows the conversation. If you do want to disrupt the conversation, you can always give a super chat. It's an opportunity for you guys to do so. There is a dollar sign at the bottom for you guys to do so, and you can do that. Um, but generally speaking, this is the show where we just have a conversation and sit back, lay back. You might hear us speak about a movie that we caught recently, or a song, or music, or album, or something that we listen to as well in between. We just like to unwind and talk about cricket in a relaxed manner. It must feel like you guys are sitting around the table with us and having a conversation. I mean, eventually, when our patrons hit those high numbers, we might be getting studios, and we will be able to do this with each other in person, guys, and to have a studio and get guys and guests in, etc. So it will be an excellent thing to be able to do that. But for now, we have to do it the way we're doing it right now. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. And yes, at the end of the month, guys, become a Patreon. Click the link on the screen and in the description. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. To all you guys, have a great week, and I hope you had a great weekend and have an excellent week further. Peace.